Olashade Daniel. All right, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Let's roll. Building influence. Now, in a simple term, I want your response in the chat room. Just what do you understand by influence? In a very short sentence, what do you understand by influence? So I want to read our feedback. So influence is something we have had, is a word we have had severally, I believe. So I just need our feedback. What do we understand by the word influence? So I'll be expecting to read from us. Let me go through the chat room, okay? Someone say ability to exert authority. Ability to exert authority. Ability to cause a change in behavior of another person. I like that, Mr. Benjamin. That's great. Ability to exert authority. That's great. All right. Please one or two more before we continue. All right. Having power over people, decision activities. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. Ability to impact on your environment. Thank you so much for all these responses. Yeah. Ability to inspire others. Yes. Okay. Influence is getting someone persuaded by one's opinion or getting followership through your action. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. All right. Thank you so much for the responses. All right. Let's look at what building influence is. In addition to all that have been said by you. All right. So we'll be explaining what is influence and why should we influence people. We'll describe the principles of influence, describe the strategies of influencing people. Then we explain the role of communication to build influence. Then we explain the role of active listening to build influence. And as we are going to also look at the role of body language to build influence. Then we describe how to influence people. Then we look at how to control the actions and attitude of others. Then we look at the relationship between influence and self. Then we explain how to influence different personalities. Then we list the tips to influence people. Now, there are 4 images in front of us. I hope you can see my slide. You can see my screen. Okay. I hope you can see my screen. I believe yes. All right. There are 4 images. We have Margandi. We have Adolf Hitler. Then we have Osho. Then we have Michael Jackson. Now, I will ask us, what is common to all these people? What do you think is common to all these people? Number one, they are known all over the world. In their different field of endeavors, they are known. Then they have followers. They have caused changes in society and beyond their place of abode. Yes. They've caused changes beyond their stays on earth. And what is common to all of them, according to Esther Ojo and Pius Benjamin, is that they are people of influence. They are highly influential and very respected in their various fields. Now, we'll look at them one by one. Okay. Let's look at Mahatma Gandhi. He influenced an entire nation to follow the path of non-violence and gain its freedom. Mahatma Gandhi was an Indian lawyer, anti-colonial nationalist, and a political ethicist. He employed non-violent resistance to lead the successful campaign for Indians' independence from British rule. Non-violent protest against their colonial master, non-violence. He was able to influence the whole nation. And even after he has departed, he was assassinated in 1948. And till date, his name is still ringing bells, all right? Then on the other hand, we have Adolf Hitler that influenced an entire nation to fulfill his fanatic ambition. Yeah, to fulfill his fanatic ambition. Thank you, Mr. Victor. Yeah. The first one employed a non-violence to get freedom. The other one employed violence. On the other hand, he was a dictator in Germany between 1933 and 1945, Adolf Hitler. Then we have Osho. He influenced people across the world to follow his ideologies. This man was a religious leader, an Indian guru. Yeah. He formed a new religion and a new religion movement. And all over the world, he has followers. Then we have Michael Jackson, that is also known as King of Pop. Of course, he influenced people, young and old, across the globe to create a fan following that not only adore him, but also try to emulate his dressing, his dance style, and his fashion. All right. So these are people of influence. Now, I want to look at this. So you can see that having an influence on people is one of the key traits of becoming a leader and being successful in any field, whether it is politics, music, business, etc. Hence, it is important that you should know how to influence people. So we want to learn how we can influence people in details. There is a book by John C. Maxwell. The book is titled Power of Influence. Power of Influence. Please, I want us to possibly get it and read. And if you have read before, you can read again and again and again. All right. So John Maxwell believed influence is leadership, or better still, leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. That's the John Maxwell. He said leadership is influence. So we're talking about we're talking about influence. We're talking about leaders. Influential people are leaders. Though not all leaders can become influential, but influential people are leaders. Okay? So influence is how you inspire others to take action. How you inspire others to take action without being without much ado. How you push people to do what you have in mind. Yeah. Influence measures what others also do for you. Number one, influence is how you inspire people to take action. Then it's also measured by what others do for you. In other words, you can stay in a particular country and influence the policies and government of other countries. That's influence. So how influential you are is measured by two metrics. Number one, ability to inspire others, ability to have followers, to have allies, to gather likes, all right? Then the other one is your outreach, your going out, generosity towards how you reward actions, interaction with others. All these are metrics to measure how influential a man is. Someone said, without the capacity of influence or without the capacity to influence others, your ability to make what you envision a reality remains elusive. Without the capacity to influence others, your ability to make what you envision a reality remains elusive. because after all, no one can do it all alone. So the ability to employ people, to change people's way of thinking, to push them to do things ordinarily they wouldn't have done. Okay, so that is influence. So I want to look at the reasons why people should be influenced. The reason why people should be influenced. Number one, influencing people can be beneficial to you in several ways. Can be beneficial to you in several ways, such as it helps to deal with people so that they feel important and appreciated. It helps in dealing with people so that they feel important and appreciated. We are going to be looking at these in details in the course of this lecture. It helps to handle people without making them feel manipulated. There are ways you handle influence makes you to handle people without them feeling you are actually manipulating them or brainwashing them. Yes, it helps you to make someone want to do what you want them to do. And I don't know if someone will have thought on how will some people will agree to be suicide bombers. Yeah. Some people will agree to murder themselves, to commit suicide. And because of killing themselves, they also want to take others along. Naturally, I mean, any human Please, can you hear me now? Hello? Please, can you hear me? If you can hear me, please.
Yes, we can hear you, sir. We can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay.
That's your
Please,
slide.
can you also see my slide?
No, we can't see your slide.
Okay, let me reshare. Can you see the slide now, please? Oh, what's this?
Your slide is on, sir. You can go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, so we want to look at influence and success. One of the key traits of a successful person, either professional or personal, is how he or she can influence people. So influencing people helps you to lead the people to your way of thinking and help them to prevent unnecessary conflict and resentment. There is a very strong linear relationship between success and influence. So let's look at this. Please, can you hear me? Okay. It has been said or carried out that a study carried out shows that when you're able to influence people and learn to deal with other people, you will have 80% success in your business and 99% personal happiness. Okay. In considering building influence, we want to look at ego. Ego. Yeah. What is an ego? It is crucial when we want to learn building influence and handle people. So understanding ego will help us to it will give us the ability and will help us in influencing or building influence. Every human being is a special individual personality, and the most powerful drive in any person is to defend his human dignity and demand respect. Ego is more powerful than armies and prison camps. Every effort that has been made to deprive individual of this world has failed. Ego is a conscious thinking of oneself. It's a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. So, in other words, everyone is important. And so everyone must be treated that way. Ability to rob people of their importance or self-worth will never work. Okay, so that is where ego comes in. Then we want to look at the next facts about human ego. What are the facts we need to know about human ego? Number one, we are all egoists. We are all egoists. Of course, all of us may not be egoistic, but we are all egoists. We are more interested in ourselves in anything else. Every man is more interested in himself than anything else. So therefore, it's important that people should be treated with dignity, irrespective of their position or their social status. Every person we meet wants to feel important and to amount to something. Everyone is ambitious of becoming something. And everybody will always appreciate us appreciating them. So that is why when you give love to people, they give love back to you. If you don't care about people, if you get to a stage, people will also not care about you. So what actually we give to people is what we're giving back. Okay, so there's a craving in everyone for the approval of others, so that he or she can approve of themselves. Everybody wants to be approved by others. People does not like being turned down. So one of the most important aspects of influencing people is to first of all make them feel important. You make them feel important. You don't look down on them. So you should remember that everyone has a point of view and an ego in them. Every suggestion shouldn't be shut down. Every suggestion should be given, should be entertained. And of course, even though you are not going to follow such suggestion, but don't just shut it off. The quickest way to improve our dealings with people is to begin by giving importance to the other persons, other people's feelings, and other people's opinion. Okay. What are the ways to make people feel important? There are various ways. Number one, think other people are important. You must think other people are very important. No one is less important. The security man at the gate is not less important to the managing director. So then number two, you notice people. Even talking about making people important, there are some people in their homes, they believe their wives are not, some men believe women, their wives, okay, women are not as important as them. In other words, man is the head of the home, so woman is not as important as man. No, other people are very important. So the children are also very important. Number two, ways to feel important is to notice people. It's also always good to notice people, to acknowledge people. Don't look down on people. Don't anywhere you get to, it's always good to notice people. Number three, we shouldn't compete with people. Then know when to correct others. There are times not to correct. There are times to correct. We should be able to know, draw lines between when to correct others and when not. People does not like to be embarrassed publicly. So we should also know that. Think other people are important. All right. The first rule is to simply convince ourselves and for all that others are important. The first rule of influencing people is to convince ourselves once and for all that others are important. Okay, the second is to notice people. We should notice each and every person. When we notice someone, they feel their importance is being recognized and their morale is boosted. So when we notice people, people feel they are important, and of course their morale is boosted. Okay, everyone wants to feel important and want to feel others to recognize their importance. If you want to make a good impression on others, most effectively way is to let them know we are impressed by them. Even though the person has not said anything meaningful, just try as much as possible to let him or her know that he has impressed, he has said something good. Right. Then we should know when to correct others. Don't try to win all the little battles if nothing is involved except the other person saying it. There are some battles we will lose in order to win war. So don't try to win all the battles. All right. So then we'll go to principles of influence. The following are the key principles of influencing people. Number one, we have commitment and consistency. Commitment and consistency rule states that once we make a decision, we experience pleasure from others and ourselves to behave consistently with that decision. So what this rule is saying, principle is saying is this. When you make a commitment of yourself, it is also expected of you to be consistent on that so that your influence on people can be continuous, all right? Then the second one talk about reciprocation. It's important in order to influence others because when you give yourself, you receive more than you give. When you give people respect, they give you honor. Whatever you give people, they give you more than you give. So even when you give people dishonor, they will also give shame or more. So that's all. We should learn the principle of reciprocation. Do unto others what you want them do to you. Then the third one talk about scarcity. The principle says that when we are more easily persuaded when the resource is limited. This principle is actually saying that people are more serious when they have limited results. In other words, when the sales is lower or the profit is lower, people are more influenced, they are more committed to do more so as not to go down. Then we have the principle of authority. It plays a major role in influencing people. However, you should remember that you don't have to hold a position in order to be a leader. The principle of authority says that when we are not easily persuaded by those with authority, then there are symbols of authority you can use to increase your authority. In other words, the principle says the people in authority they find it easy to persuade people. However, when you are not persuaded by authority, then you can use to increase your authority and influential power. All right. Then the third one talked about liking. An important principle of influencing people of that leadership, or if that leadership comes through respect, and a large part of respect comes from liking someone. Then I have social proof. You should remember that men are like sheep, of which a flock is more easily driven than a single one. Okay. Then I'm going to take time here. I've been rushing because I actually want to stay here want to dwell for a while here. Now, we have strategies of influencing people, and there are 25 in all. There are 5 slides that contain them. There are 25 in all. So we'll be looking at them one after each other. And in the chat room, I want us to also respond by rephrasing these words. I mean, just like the first one says, say less than necessary. No, when you are trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear. So the less you'll be in control. Let me come again. And I also want that to sink. I want us to look at this. When you are trying to impress people, don't say so much words. The more common you appear, the more words you say, the more common you appear. So no man has ever been represented by volume of words he has spoken, but by the value of word. It's not about the volume. It's not about how much you have said. It's about how valuable what you have said is. So we must learn to speak less, but speak values. All right, that's that. So I hope somebody got that. Please, I'll need responses. I wouldn't mind to spend the whole time I have with this. They are very, very important. Like I said earlier, none of these slides can be flipped over without touching. So you need to get your material. So if you can get me, please, I want you to respond in the chat room. Okay, you can see anything, you can rephrase. Say less. Thank you, Esther. I like that. Say less. Please, I want 1 or 2 responses again on this. Don't talk much. All right. Say less. The more words you say, the more common you appear. Guide your tongue. All right. Thank you, Mr. Magnus. Guide your tongue. Maybe one more before I continue. Guide your tongue. All right. Any other from anybody? All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Always capture. Always capture. All right. Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Dixon. Now, the second one says, second strategy to influence people says, guide your reputation. Guide your reputation. Reputation is the cornerstone of influence, and through reputation, you can intimidate and win. Now, someone said, it takes many good deeds to build a good reputation, but it takes one bad deed to lose it. So reputation, as brand is to any product, so reputation is to any man. So reputation is very, very important. So on this, I want someone to just comment, just say something, just maybe 1 or 2 short words on reputation. It's the cornerstone of influence. When people believe in you, they will give themselves to you. All right. Anyone? It's all right. Then the third one says, always capture attention. Stand out and be conspicuous at all times. Okay. Thank you. Don't belittle yourself. All right. Thank you, Esther Joe. All right. Don't belittle yourself at all costs. Make yourself a magnet of attention by appearing larger, more colorful, and more mysterious. And I said here on this third principle, this third strategy, create and occupy. Everyone has a space. You have a space. Don't stand down, but stand out. You need to occupy your space. Yes. So always capture attention. Let people focus their attention on you anywhere you get to. So you can do that by appearing big, by appearing not as in wearing big clothes, but you can wear something simple and appear big. It's not about the bigness of the clothes you are putting on, but it's about a kind of aura, your carriage. Yes, your carriage. Yeah. Then appear more colorful and more mysterious. Then the fourth one says, make people come to you. When you make other persons to come to you, you are in control. when you make other people come to you and control, not all time you must talk in any meeting. Not all time. There are times they will ask for your suggestion. What do you think? At that time, because you have observed everyone, you have been listening to everyone, at that time you can drop your point. Make people come to you. Okay? Then win through actions and not argument. It is much more influential to get others to agree with you through your actions. Without saying a word, demonstrate, do not explicate. So your actions matter very, very much. It's not about argument. Words can be won through actions. Action speaks louder than your voice, okay? Then the third one, sorry, we go to the next slide. The sixth strategy says, keep people dependent on you. To maintain your influence, you must always be needed and be wanted. To maintain your influence, your relevancy, you must always be needed and wanted. The more you are relied on, the more influencer you are, or the more influence you have, or the more influential you are. To maintain your influence, you must always be needed and wanted. Talking about being needed and wanted, you must also prepare ahead so that when opportunity comes, you will be needed and be wanted. Wherever you are given time to do something, make sure you create an impact that will always make them to come back for you. Like in IIPM, God is actually helping us. I've not actually seen or heard that IIPM has. I don't know if there's any place IIPM has trained people and is not needed again. I can't really say if there's anywhere. I can't really say there's anywhere or any place IIPM has trained people and is not needed again. So you must make sure you are needed and you are wanted. Whatever time is given to you, make sure you use it very, very well. Okay. Then appeal to people's self-interest. Influence people by showing them what lies in it for their benefit and emphasize it out of proportion. So you need to appeal to people's interest. People must be attracted to you. People should be magnetized to you. People should see interest. They should see something in you that will make them come back for more. Excuse me. All right. Then use scarcity. The more you are seen and heard from, the more common you appear. Okay, you must learn when to live. You must learn when to live. You must create value through scarcity. Don't always appear common every time. Don't always show forth every time. There's a rule of scarcity that you must apply. Once in a while, just lock yourself, not in your house, but just don't always come up so that people, when you're too common, your value will not be needed. Okay, never isolate yourself. Isolating yourself cuts you off from values, information, and valuable information, and make you conspicuous and easy target. Circulate among people, find allies, and mingle. We must learn to mingle. All right. Never offend anyone. Everyone will not react to your strategies in the same way. Never offend or deceive anyone. Of course, we should have it at the back of our mind that not all your strategies, not all your suggestions will be accepted. In fact, some people will never accept your personality no matter what. But try as much as possible to not to offend anyone and not to deceive anyone. All right. Use the surrender tactic. When you are weaker, never fight for honor's sake. Choose surrender instead. We must choose to retreat once in a while. When you discover you are weaker, then you don't need to fight for honor. Just choose and surrender. Surrendering now does not mean you have lost the battle or you have lost in any way. Conserve your forces and energies by keeping them concentrated on their strongest point. So concentrate your focus or your forces. Your forces must be concentrated towards the strongest point. Don't use your force or your energies in doing irrelevant things or minor things, but concentrate your forces, your energy on the main point, all right? Then recreate yourself. You can recreate yourself by forging a new identity, one that commands attention and never bores the audience. Be the master of your own image. So you can recreate yourself. You can recreate as image, all right? Create an image that will cause attention, that people will be attracted to. Then use people's need to believe. People have an overwhelming desire to believe. Become the focal point of such desire by offering them a cause, a new faith to follow. Then keep your hands clean. You must seem an ideal role model of civility and efficiency. Then the next one is enter actions with boldness. Be bold when you are entering into a cause. Enter any action with boldness. Everyone admires the bold. No one honors the timid. Whenever you are given time or chance to speak, boldness must be put forth. People does not like timid people, but they admire bold people. All these influential people that have been mentioned about, that were mentioned in the beginning of this lecture, and many more that have not been mentioned, they are bold. None of them has ever been timid. No timid man or woman can be influential. Both people are admired by everyone. So plan to the end. By planning to the end, you will not be overwhelmed by circumstances and you will know when to stop. You must be a good strategist. You must plan to the end. Then the next one is make your accomplishments self-effortless. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. Your action must seem natural and executed with ease. Your action must seem natural and executed with ease. Don't struggle to do things. Don't struggle with people. Okay? Then control the options. Give people options that come out in your favor, whichever one they choose. Give options and let them choose whichever one, but whichever one they choose, let them come out in your favor. Okay? Then play to people's fantasies. Never appeal to truth and reality, but tap into the fantasies of the masses. Okay, discover, then the next one says, discover each man's weakness. Every man has a weakness, and you must discover each man's weakness. Everyone has a weakness, and you can turn this weakness to your advantage. Okay. Then create your image through attire. The way you carry yourself will often determine how influential you are and how you are treated. So your courage, your charisma is very, very important. Don't dress shabbily. Have your own signature. Have your own. Let people know. Have your own style. Let people know you with a particular style. Okay. Then the first one says, master the art of timing. Timing is very, very important, and you must master the art of timing. Master the art of timing. Never seems to be in a hurry. Hurrying betrays a lack of control over yourself and over time. Then merge with others. Influence people by blending in with them and nurturing the common touch of the group. Blend with them, go away with them. Go another miles with them, but make sure you influence them by blending in your ideas into theirs. Then the next one says, stay calm. Anger and emotions are strategically counterproductive. You must always stay calm, cool, collected, and objective. You must always stay calm, cool, collected, and objective. Anger is not good, is an emotion that does not bring production. So let's take note of that. Even when you are opposed by anyone, just stay your cool. All right. Then the first one says, strike the leaders and heads will follow. Influence and impress the leader of the group, and the rest of the group will be influenced automatically. When you catch the head, the followers are caught automatically. Then the other one says, work on heart and mind of others. You can actually work on mind and act of others. You must seduce others into wanting to move in your direction. You must seduce others into wanting to move in your direction by operating on their individual psychologies and weakness. Okay, by operating on their individual psychologies and influence, and weakness. They never appear too perfect. Never appear too perfect. It is smart to occasionally display defects and admit to harmless vices in order to deflect envy and appear more human and approachable. Please don't always show to people that you are a Superman. There is no Superman anywhere. Yes, it is smart to actually display defects. Let people know that, okay, let people see you to be approachable. There are some questions you may not have answers to. Let people know that, okay, I don't have answers to this, but give me time. Yes, it is smart to always do that. Don't always, it's not good to always show to people that we are super and you can do all things and you are omni-know, you know all things and you can do all things. Nobody knows all things. Okay, all right. So the next one says use the mirror effect. You can influence people by using the mirror effect. By holding up a mirror to their sides, you seduce them with the illusions that you share their value. Then reform slowly. People are creatures of habit. Make gentle improvement slowly. Okay, on this, I don't know if anybody have any comment on all I've been read so far. Any comment on what I've been read so far? I don't know any point of concern. Any point of concern? It could be an addition. It could be a buttress of any of these points. Please, you can type in the chat room. I'll be glad to read from you. All right. Effective communication is important to influence people. Let's look at communication and influence. Influential people are effective communicators. Considering the four images that were shown in the beginning and every other influential people all over the world, they are effective. As a matter of fact, one of the tools everyone must have to be influential is the ability to communicate effectively. Ability to communicate effectively. All right. Ability to express yourself without being misunderstood, without being misinterpreted, or being misrepresented. Very, very important. All right. That is effective communication. It's about how information is sent and received between the people. That's communication. Effective communication is about how information is sent and received between people. So communication is not all about sending out information. It's also about how the information is being received. That's why I said effective communication is the ability for people not to misinterpret you, not ability for people not to misrepresent you, or for you not to be misrepresented or misunderstood. All right. So ability is about how information is sent out and received by people. All right. It is crucial for working successfully with others. That's communication. It enables one to maintain good relationship. It maintains good relationship. It allows to accomplish tasks while working with both individuals and groups. Then effective communication motivates. It motivates people. It helps to overcome obstacles. It creates a comfortable, trustful, and psychologically safe feelings. So, what are the guidelines for effective communication? Clarity. Every communication must be clear, okay? Completeness must be completed. Then we have conciseness. It must not be too long. Conciseness, brief. Then it must be considerate. There must be a consideration. The you attitude must be there. Then we are going to look at this in details. It must be accurate. Then must also be concrete. Concreteness, the validity, the genuinity. All right. Then courtesy. Let's look at them one after each other. Okay, so barriers of effective communications. Barriers of effective communication. Inaccurate interpretation, ignoring or misunderstanding nonverbal signals or implicit messages. Then we have selective perception, selecting only certain elements from a message, hearing an expected message. So people can select a particular aspect of a message as what actually they believe they want to hear. So selective perception, people perceive. Everybody is privy to his own opinion, but when you are giving a message out, people tend to select what they want for themselves. So we must be careful. We must take note of this. Then linguistic impact of language, style, tone, speed. It's not possible for a non-Hausa speaking man to, when you are speaking to such Hausa speaking group of people, or Igbo groups, Igbo speaking group of people, or Yoruba, or whatever language, or Ewe in Ghana, you must speak the language they understand. All right, and the style of your speaking, whatever, should be monitored. Your speaking style should be monitored. The tone of your voice should be checked. Then the speed at which you speak should also be checked. When you speak too fast, people will not understand. It will cause a barrier to communication. When you are too loud, people may not hear you, but they'll be hearing noises. Then your style of speaking must also be considered to have an effective communication. Then we have semantics. Different perceptions, meanings that different people attach to the same words. So there are words with different meanings. So we must be able to define fully what we are trying to say. Then another one is physical. When you are too tired, your state of health can affect your communication. When you're too tired, then your communication can be bad, can be affected. All right. Then we have emotional and psychological. Expressing emotions, being defensive, negative, assertive, conflict, religion, politics and values, personality, experiences, lack of confidence. All these can be a barrier to effective communication. If your emotions are not well expressed, then people will misinterpret or misunderstand whatever you are trying to pass across. Then when you are being defensive, in some cases, people will not actually get your point well. Then when you are not assertive, then when you are too religious, okay, when there's a conflict, religion conflict, or when you say some things that could bring there are questionable statements that are better not said. All these should be avoided. Then we have gender. Roles, expectation, and tradition associated with each gender also can cause barrier to communication. Then we have culture. cultural differences, use of jargons, culture-related idiom and expression can also cause barrier to effective communication. All right. Then how do we overcome all these barriers? How do we overcome them? Number one, by speaking louder and reducing background noises. By speaking louder and reducing background noises, when there are noises at the background that may be disturbing the class or disturbing whatever you are saying, it can be a barrier. Also, all these noises, background noises, must be reduced or eliminated as the case may be, then by speaking louder. Not by shouting, but by speaking louder. Then by asking for clarification instead of assuming. Then after each words have been passed across, it is also good to ask people for clarification, or you can also ask for clarification from the speaker, or if you are the speaker, you can ask people questions to know if they are really clear about what has been said. Then another one is by listening actively, by being an active listener. Not everywhere, okay? We have hearers and we have listeners. You must be an active listener, okay? Then by thinking rationally, you must be a rational thinker, not a rational thinker. Then by eliminating perceptions, assumptions, by eliminating perception and assumptions. Don't assume that what that person is saying. Just try as much as possible to be objective in your hearing or in your listening skills. Then by using sign language or written communication. Sign language or written communication are also one of the barriers or one of the ways of overcoming barriers. Then by asking valid questions. Okay? Then by being mature. All right. Then that leads us to questioning technique. Okay? The best influencing style is probing, consulting, and questioning, as it helps to gain consensus. It is crucial to ask the right questions to influence people. Asking the right questions help to, number one, gather better information quickly. Asking the right questions helps to gather better information quickly. So we must know that questioning technique is people's attention or passing communication, information to people, and gathering information. Yes, gathering information. Number two, questioning techniques helps to learn more about a situation. It helps to learn more about a situation, to build stronger relationships. It helps to manage people more effectively, and it helps to avoid misunderstanding. So there are various questioning techniques that can be used in different situations. You have probably used all of these questioning techniques before, but by consciously using the appropriate kind of questioning, you can gain the information, response, or outcome that you want even more effectively and influence people. So let's look at those of these techniques. We have open questions. Open questions evoke longer answers. Open questions usually begin with what, why, how. Such a question asks the respondent for his or her knowledge, opinion, or feelings about a particular situation. The question always begins with what? What do you think about? And that's an example. What do you think about the situation? Then it gives an open-ended answers to such respondent to respond. What do you think? What? Why? Why do you think this happened? Or why is this happening? How can we do this? How? Right? Any question that starts with what, why, and how. So when to use it? When are we to use it? To develop an open, frank conversation. To develop an open, frank conversation. Number two, to find out more details. Then details about situations, details about people, details about things, to find out more details. Then to learn about other people's opinion, feelings, or issues. It helps to learn about people's opinion, feelings, or issues. Examples. Why did he react that way? Why did he react that way? That's an example. Then we have a closed questions. Closed questions. Closed questions generally evoke a single word or very short factual answer. Just a single word or very short factual answer. Okay, so when are we to use it? In closed questions, you ask yes or no, right? So when to use it? To test your or other person's understanding. Okay, to conclude a discussion on making a decision. Then to set a reference frame for the person within which to answer. All right. So we have an example. Are you hungry? Yes. Are you hungry? No. So we have a funnel questions. Asking funnel questions involves starting with general questions and then zooming in on a point in each answer. Then you move on to asking more and more details at each level. Hence, generally, when using funnel questioning, start with closed questions. As you progress through the funnel, start using more open questions. So when are we to use them? To find out more details about a specific point. Then to gain the interest or increase the confidence of persons you are speaking with. To gain the interest or increase the confidence of the person you are speaking with. We have examples. How many people were involved in the fight? About 7. Were they kids or adults? Mostly adults. Then the question keep coming like that. All right. Funnel. The beginning starts small, but it expands as it progresses. Then we have probing questions. Probing questions are asked to find out more details. In such questions, use questions that include the word exactly to probe further. An effective way of probing is to use the 5 whys method, which can help you quickly get to the root of a problem. Okay, so when to use them? To gain clarification of any matter or situation, to draw information out of people unwilling to give information. Okay, as the name implies, probing question. So what are the examples? We have who exactly and wanted this report. Who exactly wanted this report? Okay, so that's an example. Then we have leading question. We have so many of them. We have just few numbers of them anyway. So then we have leading questions. Leading questions are asked to try to lead and lead the respondent to your way of thinking. It is important to note here that leading questions tend to be close. When are we to use it? To get the answers you want, but letting the other persons believe that they had a choice. Then to close the sale. The example is option 2 is better, isn't it? In other words, you have given an option, but you still ask a question to get the answer you want, but letting the other person believe that they had a choice. Then we have rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions are not really questions at all. This is because they don't expect an answer. They are really just statements phrased in question form. Usually, such questions are used because they are engaging for the listener as they are drawn into agreeing. So when are we to use them? To engage the listener. So we have an example. Isn't that a great display? It's actually not a question, but it's just to get your listener agree to your point. Then listening to build influence. Listening to build it. So what has listening to do with influence? What are listening to do with influence? Listening, especially active listening, is crucial to influence others because active listening helps you to look at the person who is talking. When you are listening to people, you should look at the person talking. So it helps you to look at who is talking. It helps you to appear deeply interested. When listening to people, you appear to be deeply interested. Number two, learn towards the person. Look at the person who is talking, then appear deeply interested in the matter presented before you. Then lean towards the person. In other words, don't sit, but just lean towards the person and give your utmost attention. Then in listening, we don't cut whoever is talking. You allow the person to finish what he or she is saying, then you ask questions. Then avoid interrupting the person. I've said that. Allow the person to finish what he or she is saying, then get more information by questioning. Then stick to the speaker's subject. Now, at this point, I want to say this. When someone is bringing a case to you, it's possible the person may not want to tell you the whole story. The person may not want to tell you the whole story. There are some unsaid words or some words that such a person would not want to say. So it's not left for you as a good listener to know through the statement or whatever the person is saying, to know that there are some unsaid words, there are some words that are hidden, and questions can bring this out for you to get to the root of the matter. Okay, stick to the speaker subject. Now, for another word, don't digress. Then use the speaker's word to get your point across. All right. So we want to look at active listening. The most important aspect of communication is listening. If you want to be able to influence people, then you have to be able to listen. Active listening is essential to influencing those around you. Listening well can help to understand the need of others and hence influence them. Listening well can help to influence the need of others and hence influence them. Is when you listen to people, you know their heart cry, you know what they want, you know their need, and when you meet their need, then they are attached to you. Then that is an influence. Then obtain information. Listening is important because it helps us to obtain information. It helps us to understand. It helps to enjoy. Then it helps us to learn. However, it has been found through various studies that we remember between 25% and 50% of what we hear. So what is important is to become an active listener. It has been found out at various studies that we remember 25 to 50% of what we hear. So what is important is to become an active listener. Active listening involves making a conscious effort to hear not only the words of the speaker, but also to try to understand the complete message being sent. To hear not just the words, but to understand the complete message being sent. In various ways, we have come across people that will tell you things, but in the heart of their heart, they are actually not saying what they want. But if you're a good active listener, you'll be able to get the point such a person is making. So it takes a conscious and intentional effort to hear not just the words that the person is speaking, but also to understand the mind of the messenger or the complete message that is being sent to you. So there are 5 keys of active listening that helps in active listening to the speaker. Number 1, you pay attention. Number 2, you show that you are listening. Number 2, you provide feedback. Number 4, you defy judgment. Number 5, you respond appropriately. We are going to look at each other in detail. Pay attention. Pay your complete attention to the speaker and acknowledge the message. Look at the speaker directly. Do not get distracted from listening by environmental factors. I've said this to people so many times. When someone is speaking to you, it is an error to press phone or to get the person distracted. So we must look at the speaker directly, just look at the face directly and concentrate on him or her to get the message. You must pay attention. Do not get distracted from listening by environmental factors. Then listen to the body language, the speaker's body language. It's possible to be saying something and mean another. As a counselor, I've come across people that will be saying hey, and what they mean is B. So it's good to listen to people and also read their body languages. Okay, refrain from side conversations when listening in a group setting. Then we have show that you are listening. Show the speaker that you are listening by using your own body language and gestures. By using your own body language and gestures, not occasionally. So that just not occasionally. You smile when there is need for facial expression. Then you keep your posture open and inviting. Then use small verbal comment like yes, or something like hey, yeah, okay, just to encourage the speaker to continue. All right. Then provide feedback. Paraphrase whatever is being said to reflect your understanding of what is spoken or what is being spoken. Just for you to get clarification, just make sure you paraphrase what has been said by that person to actually get what that person has said. All right. Ask questions to clarify certain points. If there are points that need to be clarified, don't assume that you have gotten it. Ask questions to clarify. Then summarize the speaker's comment periodically. Summarize the comment periodically. All right. Then we have defer judgment. Allow the speaker to finish. Don't judge. Don't jump into judgment. Do not interrupt speaker while they encounter or why. Do not interrupt the speaker with counter argument. Do not interrupt the speaker with counter argument. All right. Then we have the next one. Respond appropriately. Be frank, open, and honest in your response. Be frank, open, and honest in your response. Put forth your opinions respectively. Then treat the other persons as you would like yourself to be treated by others. We must respond and we must be honest with our responses. Right? Okay. At this point, I don't know, does anybody have any question? I have just 5 minutes more, and I'm still far from finishing the slides I have here. So please make sure you get your materials. These materials are highly loaded and they are very, very good. Please get yours. I don't know if there's any question, please, we can begin to put them in the chat room while I'll be running off. Then using body language to influence people. How do we use body language to influence people? All right. Non-verbal communication, also known as body language, forms the difference between the words people speak and our understanding of what they are saying. I've said this over and over that everybody speaks, whether we are verbally speaking or not. We speak all the time. We pass messages across to people all the time with the way we look, with the way we walk, with our gestures, with everything around us, even with the way we dress, even with the colors of our dresses. We pass messages to people. We pass messages to people. So gestures, body language, it forms difference between the word that is spoken and what the person is actually saying. So we can understand people better if we develop an understanding of the science and signals of body languages. We can understand people better if we develop an understanding of the science and signals of body languages. So we can use the knowledge of body languages to portray a positive self-image and also understand other people very well. Okay. So then body languages include body movement and gestures, legs, arms, head, and torso postures. muzzle tension, eye contact, skin coloring, flushing red, even with breathing rate and perspiration. All these are body languages that we must understand to be a very active listener and to be an influential person. Additionally, the tone of your voice, the rate of speech, and the pitch of the voice all add to the words that have been said. Okay, let me give you an example. If you are telling someone, I'm sorry, and you are shouting, I'm sorry, of course, the word does not shows what you are actually saying. So what we're saying is the pitch of the voice, the rate at which we speak, the tone of the voice, all these are very useful in understanding people. So we want to look at the common signs of body language. Common signs of the body language. Then we have number one, we have posture. Posture. Then we have speech. We have eye contact. We have tone of voice, gesture with hands. Then we are going to look at them in details. Number one, they stand tall with shoulders back. Postures. When you are posting, you stand tall with shoulders back. Then speech. The speech is slow and clear. When you are speaking, it must be slow and must be clear. Then keep a solid eye contact with a smiling face. Keep a solid eye contact with a smiling face. Then the tone of voice must be moderate to low. It must not be too high, it must be moderate to low. Then the gestures are purposeful and deliberate. Gestures are used to pass information to people. Some of the common signs that the person you are speaking with may be feeling defensive are: number one, facial expressions are minimal. When the facial expressions are minimal, then the person that is speaking to you will feel defensive. Hands gesture are small and close to his body. Their body is physically turned away from you. Eyes maintain little contact or no contact at all. Arms are crossed in front of the body. Then we look at feedback. I will drop the curtain here for now. So I'm still expecting questions. I don't know if anyone have any question for me, please. You can feel free to put them in the chat room. If there's any question for me, please put them in the chat room. I believe you can hear me clearly. I believe you can hear me clearly. Okay. Please, can you hear me clearly? Okay, feedback. One of the reasons we always say is that everybody should type one in the chat room is because we want to get feedback from us. Like what I just said now, can you hear me clearly? Yes, someone has given me feedback. So giving feedback. Feedback is a type of communication that we give or get. It's a communication we give or get. Okay, somebody's also giving me feedback. Yes, sir. Thank you. That's a feedback. Someone is giving me feedback now. Of course, I can also give feedback. It is a critical assessment or suggestion made for improvement. Okay? Feedback is crucial in communication as it helps to have honest relationship. There are some people, they don't wait for feedback. In fact, if feedback is not coming, it's advisable to go for it. If people are not giving feedback, it's good to always ask for feedback. Some persons are so autocratic that we don't get feedback from people. We are so self-dependent that we don't get feedback from people. But whether feedback is coming or not, it's good to always go for it, request for it. Feedback is crucial in communication as it helps to have honest relationship. Giving feedback helps you to let people know how effective they are and helps to build influence among people. Provide an impactful feedback is not offensive. Your approach in providing feedback helps to build influence and create effective work relationship which are free from conflict and hard feelings. There are ways to give feedback. I'm not sure we can, okay, type of feedback. Let me drop the curtain so that I don't infringe into the next lecturer's time. So thank you so much. I hope we've been able to gain one or two things. Please, if you have questions for me, you can post it now, or if you want to give a voice, or you want to suggest, or possibly you want to add to what I've been said, or there's a you have a submission to make, no suggestion now. Please, you can raise your hands. We can give you a voice from, so that I can give you a voice. So please, does anyone have any question, any addition to what I've been said so far? So please, I want us to go through this lecture. Please make sure you get your materials. I've repeated that more than 4 times during this lecture because all the slides, all the whatever, everything, the material is highly good and beneficial. So any question, if there's none, I'll be calling it a day for now. Of course, I'll be back in the afternoon. So thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful lecture. So I'll be handing over to the next lecturer. Dr. Benito, please, are you around? Are you on ground?
All right, I'm stepping in right now. Thank you so much.
Princess, thank you. It's nice hearing your voice. It's been very long. How are you, ma'am?
Oh, very well. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I'm very sure we all enjoyed the class. I actually did too, listening to Dr. Joseph Oluwaseyi David. Thank you so much, sir.
It's a pleasure.
All right. So I would want to once again welcome everyone to another interesting aspect of emotional intelligence. My name is Daisy Princess Nabrife, and I make bold to say that I had a nice time with you last week when we discussed extensively on stress management. Please give me a moment so I can get to share my slides. All right, so can you all see my slides? Can you see my screen? Please, if you can see my screen, I would really appreciate it if you could type yes in the chat room. That way I know that you can hear me and you can see my screen. Okay, Jason can see my screen. Dixon can see my screen. Veronica can see my screen. Courage, thank you. Okay, so that means that my screen is very clear. Everybody, Folashade, thank you so much. Joseph. Okay, so everyone can see my screen. Today, I'll be taking you on persuasive skills. Persuasive skills. I hope we'll all learn something from this class. As always, in simple terms, please, can anyone tell us what persuasion is? In simple terms, like very simple terms. Can anyone tell us what persuasion is? Please, I'd like to see in the chat room, just drop it so we can get to see. This class is going to be very interactive because it's very practical. It's something that we do all the time. We get to persuade people, people get to persuade us to do something for them, or we persuade people to do something for us. So in a very, very simple term, can anyone tell us what persuasion is? I'm waiting, please. Persuasion. What is persuasion? No idea? Okay. You're muted. Oh, no, but you could just put it in the chat room. I'd like to see. Okay, fine. If you want to say something, let me unmute you because I would like all of us to participate in this. If you want to say anything, please indicate by raising up your hand so I can unmute you. Okay. All right. So, Jason.
To me, persuasion is the ability to convince people to do an action that you want them to do, or to be on your side.
That's really simple. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I think I have another one here. Folashade Daniel is saying, making people change their mind about certain things or do something for us through our words or action. Thank you very much, Jason. Thank you, Folashade, for your input. Okay, I think I have another one from Veronica. She says it's the ability to force someone to do something positive. Thank you very much. So that tells me that we all have an idea about what persuasive skills is about, what persuasion itself is about. I appreciate your input. All right, so let's go right into it. Let's go right into it. What is persuasion? Persuasion is the process by which a person's attitude or behavior without duress is influenced by communications from other people. One's attitude and behavior are also affected by other factors, for example, verbal threats, physical coercion, one's physiological states. We could also say that persuasion is the process of communication that is intended to induce belief or action and of moving others by argument to a position or a particular course of action, either temporarily or permanently. We can see that persuasion is both an art or a science. Although there is no magic involved, it's actually based on scientific knowledge. The science of persuasion or science of influence comes from social physiology, psychology, and social psychology is the scientific study of how people's thoughts, feelings, beliefs, intentions, and goals are constructed within a social context by the actual or imagined interaction with others. I'm sure at one time or the other, like I said earlier, you may have persuaded someone to do something for you, and you most likely employed the use of art and science in your interaction with that person without really knowing what you were doing. Now that brings us to the art of persuasion. Persuasion happens everywhere. You may have to persuade people for anything, right from the deadlines of a project to which person will do what chore at home. In the real world, it is sometimes difficult to ascertain whether your persuasion skills are good or bad. You may think that you're a good persuader, but in reality, it may just be the opposite. Even before you persuade, it is very important that you know exactly what you're persuading the person to do and what people can be persuaded for. It is really very important. Now, in this class, we are going to examine a lot of things against this backdrop. Let us see what the outline of this class is. In this class, we're going to discuss the importance of persuasion, steps of the persuasion process, the role of communication in persuasion, how to use either for persuasive writing, the rhetoric of persuasion, the major principles of persuasion, how to persuade others, the use of positive body language for persuasion, the framework theories for applying persuasion, strategies for developing persuasion skills, the storytelling technique of persuasion, the steps for building rapport, characteristics of a good persuader. So you can see that this lecture is packed full of a lot of useful tips and information. And the best way you can benefit immensely from it is by 1, paying rapt attention. 2, taking down valuable points, because I'm sure you're going to have a lot of it at the end of this class. 3, looking for practical ways you can practice what you have learned. It's one thing to learn and another thing to practice it. It is when you practice it that what you have learned can be put into good use. And then you'll be able to see yourself as not just a hearer, but also a doer of what you have learned. Now, that way, emotional intelligence will be more real to you, and it will be a lot easier for you to build your EI. If all of us in this class are not looking for ways to improve in our emotional intelligence, we will not be here. The fact that we're here shows that we understand the importance of emotional intelligence and we want to build it so we'll be able to do better and be better. So are we ready for this class? Haven't seen the outline and everything that is packed in it. Are we ready? If we're ready, please type yes in the chat room and then we dive right into it. Please, are we ready? I want to see your response, please. Are we ready? Okay, we are ready, we are ready, we are ready. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are all ready. Okay, now let's go right into it. Importance of persuasion. What is the importance of persuasion? It helps to deal with people so that they feel important and appreciated. It helps to handle people without making them feel manipulated. It helps you to make someone want to do what you want them to do. It helps in arousing a want to follow you and your instructions in others. It will help you to learn how to make people you like. It can help you to win people over to your way of thinking. It helps to change people without causing offense or arousing sentiment. This is something that a lot of people are struggling to do. And that's why some people are good at it and some people are just not. And that's because they fail to understand the importance of it, why they should do it, and how they should do it. The last part says it helps to change people without causing offense or arousing sentiment. Sometimes when we try to persuade people, we might end up offending them. We will only offend people when we're trying to persuade them to do something if we do not have a good art of persuasion. And that is why we're here. We're going to understand how we can do this. There are steps of persuasion. And we have 4 steps here. Step 1, establish credibility and trust in yourself. Step 2, find a basis of common ground. Step 3, provide vivid proof. And 4, connect at an emotional level. Okay, so we're going to take each of these steps one after the other. The first one is establish credibility and trust in yourself. The first step of the persuasion process is to establish credibility and trust in yourself in the mind of the audience. The audience can easily notice when you don't believe in what you're telling them. They can easily tell when you're not convinced in yourself that what you're telling them is something that you yourself would want to do or what you would want others to do. They are not foolish, they know. So if they're able to sense in you that you're doubting yourself or that you're not sure of yourself, you're not confident in what you're telling them, you will lose credibility. Now, you can do this by using your expertise and knowledge in the field that you're speaking about, by building and then appealing to the strong relationships that you share with your audience, by carefully listening to others and their opinions, and by using your history of good judgment to appeal to other person's individual personality. It's very important you do this. If you do not understand the people you're talking to or the person you're talking to, then it will be difficult to captivate their interest. It will be difficult for you to reach their hearts. So establishing credibility and trust in yourself is one step towards persuading anyone or even an audience to do something for you. Step 2, find a basis of common ground. You will find a basis of common ground between you and the other person whom you want to persuade. You should find a basis that can be agreed to by all parties for reaching a mutual understanding. First, clear and clarify the benefits that your opinions have to offer, and then look for mutually beneficial solutions for you as well as the other party. Once you have found the mutual benefits, you should clearly, that word is underlined, clearly state and define the advantages and benefits to the other party. So let's say I'm trying to make you buy my product and you don't even see why you should buy the product. You don't even understand why you should buy the product because you don't need it. And then I'm telling you, oh, the product will do this, it will do that, but it's something that is not part of your wants list, is not something that is part of your need list. At the end of the day, no matter how hard you try to persuade that person to buy that thing, if that person doesn't want it and the person doesn't need it, and he doesn't even see how it benefits him in any way, he would never, ever, ever buy that product, no matter the level of persuasion you use. And that's why it's important that you're able to establish that this is a mutual benefit, like it benefits you, it benefits the person. When you're able to state clearly the advantage and benefit that the other person is going to derive from listening to you or accepting what you're offering. And that takes us to step 3, provide vivid proof. Provide vivid proof. This step involves presenting your audience with vivid or clear proofs to support your statements and opinions. You can use logic and facts to support your statement, using imagery and metaphors to help other person compare and understand your opinion. You can use stories and examples to help other people associate with your ideas and feelings. You may use numbers to prove your statements by presenting spreadsheets or support your statements. Whatever works for you, use it very well. If you're to use imagery, use it. A lot of people are captivated by the things they see more than just the things they hear. Some people, it might just be what they hear is just enough for them to agree. So you're going to understand the kind of people you're talking to. If it is easier, if they're going to accept what you're offering them based on the things that they can see, then use imagery. If it is only by the things that they hear, then you have to work hard to make sure that your statement will be very effective. Okay. All right, the next one is connect at an emotional level. Connect at an emotional level. This step involves connecting with the other person at an emotional level. You should understand aspects to the person's personality. Now, this is important. We said it earlier. You need to understand the person's personality. Is it the person that if you just talk to on a very peripheral level, the person will just key into what you're saying, or you need to do active research before you be able to come up with something you're going to present to that person before the person buys into your idea or key into what you're trying to persuade the person to do. You have to be sure of the person's personality. If it's a person who wouldn't want to look like he doesn't know anything, then please try not to downplay on the person's emotions. Try and make the person feel good about himself. The moment someone is feeling good about himself and you're telling the person awesome things that the person needs to hear, and the person is agreeing to you, when you push in that thing you want that person to do for you, the likelihood that the person is going to accept is very high. And that's because you've been able to study the person's personality and you're sure that using this approach is going to work. So you should show empathy and respect for the person's feelings and opinions. If you don't respect the person's feelings, you don't respect the person's opinion, then you may not be able to have a headway. Respect is very important. You should show your commitment, honesty, and dedication as well. They need to see in you that you are committed to what you are offering, you're honest, and you're dedicated. In order to connect at an emotional level, you should have a high degree of self-awareness so that you can understand your own emotions as well as the other person's emotions. I'll give you an example. A friend told me about her sister who was selling a product that is supposed to help someone slim down. Okay, so she saw this lady who was really big, and then she just went up to her and was like, "Madam, do you know you're fat? Like you're really very fat. And with the way you're working, I feel you would have some health issues connected with your weight. My suggestion is that you do something for yourself about this before it gets so bad that you won't be able to breathe. Do you know that fat can choke you? Madam, I'm talking to you. Do you know that fat can choke you? You could have heart disease, you could have diabetes, you could have a stroke, you could even have heart attack. And you're so big, you really need to do something about it. Anyway, I have a product here that could help you." And she brought out the product and she gave it to this woman. What do you think this woman would do? Of course, she just insulted her. She insulted her feelings. She disrespected her. Even if she actually had a solution to her problem, the way she went about it was a total knockout. She didn't get it right. So she failed. She failed. Instead of getting a positive response, she got a very negative one because she tampered on the emotions of the person and she was supposed to persuade to buy her product in a negative way, and the result was terrible. I'm not going to tell you what happened afterward, but just know that it was awful. So we have to connect at an emotional level with the person we're trying to persuade to do something. Rejection. Rejection is something that happens each time we do the right thing the wrong way. Just like the example I just gave you of a friend's sister who was trying to do the right thing by helping someone lose weight. She was actually doing it the wrong way. Imagine if she had done it the right way, appealing to the person's emotion, trying to establish mutual benefits that she could get if she used this product, and tell her the values that comes from using it and all of that. She would have connected at the emotional level with the emotional level of this person, and then softly, gently, respectfully appeal to that person in such a way that the person starts seeing that she could benefit from this product. And before long, she keys into it. So rejection is what happens when we do the right thing the wrong way. Role of communication in persuasion. Role of communication in persuasion. Okay. Effective communication is important to persuade people because it is about how information is sent and received between people. Did you notice that the word how is underlined and bold? And that's because the information that is sent and received could either be received in a positive light or a negative light if the how is not properly addressed. So how you say something and how the person you're talking to receives the information could determine if you're properly communicating in your persuasion, if you're doing it right, if you're doing it wrong. It is crucial for working successfully with others. Some people do not work well with their colleagues at work. They don't go well. They don't see eye to eye. Why? Because there's a breakdown in communication. Probably you're saying the right thing, but you're saying it the wrong way. And then the other person is listening and is feeling bad about how you're talking to him. And at the end of the day, things won't go well. You have friction at the workplace. So even if you have a good business idea or you have an idea that could work for a project, because you already have established a long history of saying the right thing the wrong way, before you even open your mouth, people have already concluded that what you're about to say is wrong. So it is crucial for working successfully with others when you are able to understand the role of communication in persuasion. It enables to maintain good relationships, whether at home, at work, or with others. The reason why lots of couples have problems at home is because of the way they communicate. Most couples have problems in the house because they find it difficult to communicate effectively. And so you see that it strains their relationship. But the moment they're able to come together and use the right words at the right time, understanding the how of the information sent and received would help them to build proper communication. And you see that they will be happy because that way they both understand each other and they're not saying the wrong things at the right time. There's no chaos in the house. And these could also work at the workplace. It allows to accomplish tasks while working with both individuals and groups. It motivates, it helps to overcome obstacles. It creates a comfortable, trustful, and psychologically safe feeling. When someone is talking to you with a very calm, smooth voice, and then you're not feeling like the person is harassing you or trying to intimidate you or is trying to, you would just feel relaxed, you feel at home, you want to keep listening. That's why radio stations get to employ people with beautiful voices to work with them. Imagine if someone sounds terrible and the person is working in a radio station, you wouldn't be enthusiastic to tune to that station because the person really sounds awful. When you notice all these people who work there, they sound really good. And sometimes you just tune into the radio station because you want to listen to the rhythm of that person's voice and it's soothing, it's relaxing. Now imagine if that person is trying to sell a product to you using such sweet voice. Without even listening so much, you would just be like, yeah, so what is it? Yeah, how much, because the person has gotten you with how the person is saying it, making you feel safe, even if you can't even see the person. Now, I'm wondering if my voice is having the same effect on you. IDA for persuasive writing. This is another part of persuasion. Another part of persuasion. By the way, are you all hearing me? I'm beginning to feel like, can you hear me, please? Please, if you can hear me, type 1-1 in the chat room. Let me be sure that we're together. Oh, Jason, yeah, Jason can hear me. Esther, thank you. You can hear me. I was beginning to think I was talking to myself because really I enjoy talking. Joseph can hear me. Thank you. Right, Veronica. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, right. So let's go right in. IDA for persuasion. IDA for persuasion. IDA, one of the most common tools for persuasive writing is IDA. The acronym IDA stands for attention, interest, desire, action. Now let's start with attention or attracts. You can grab people's attention by using powerful words or a picture that catches the reader's eye and read what you have to say next. Attention, attracts. Okay, now let me give you a practical example of this with a simple advert. Can you see this? Looks nice, right? Okay, and it means that if someone is trying to advertise for food and the person uses a picture like this, the person will be able to drive home the message that he's trying to portray. All right, speaking of an advert, let's do an impromptu advertisement, a simple advert placement for, say, a food company. Just keep looking at the screen, okay? Maybe this will give you the idea that I'm trying to sell. All right, I'm about to do an advert for a restaurant, okay? Please listen. At the end of this, I need you to tell me what you think about my adverts, okay? All right. Do you work in an environment where there are no restaurants to get food at lunchtime? Does the restaurant at your office sell horrible food? Do you find it difficult to go to work with a lunch pack? I was in that exact position before I discovered Princess Foodalicious Instant Food Service and Delivery. They provide instant food service to cater to all your stomach needs with a wide variety of affordable, sumptuous, and delicious local and continental cuisines. Princess Foodalicious Instant Food Service and Delivery got you covered. So what are you waiting for? Place your advert now and enjoy quality at its best. For further information, please call 080-232-212-212. Princess Foodalicious Instant Food Service Delivery. Wherever you go, you are covered. Yay! Okay, I leave the yay part, okay? Now, this is an advert for a food company. Let's say it's a restaurant, okay? And so I have done an advert for Princess Foodalicious Instant Food Service and Delivery. So let's say as I was running the advert, you're seeing pictures like this. Do you like it? And then you see a picture like this. This looks like peppered snails, right? Aha. And then you see another picture like this. Okay, so with pictures like this, and then I'm running an advert about Princess Foodalicious Instant Food Service and Delivery, and I'm telling you the things you stand to gain if you key into this service. And then you're looking at lovely pictures. And then you think for a moment, at my office, those people, the food they sell is whack. Let me try them. Or you might just be like, it's true. I don't even have time to pack food in the morning before going to work. I could just call that number and then get the food delivered to me. By the way, the food looks nice. You could like to try it. So imagery is very, very important. Please forgive me if I'm making you hungry with these pictures, okay? I'm really sorry if it's making you feel hungry, but I thought I should use them to get your attention. I hope it worked. Okay, if this didn't work, I'm sure this would, depending on the things you like. Okay. So what do you think about the advert to start with? Were you able to find a common ground? Did it have a clearly defined advantage and benefits to the public? Do you find an element of persuasion in it? Were you able to find a call to action in it? It's just an example. You could do better. In case you're having a product you intend to market, a product you intend to persuade people to buy, you could do better than I've done, all right? Because what's important is that you get to sell an idea to someone and then the person buys it without even thinking twice. The person just buys it. That is the power of persuasion. When you do it positively, you will get a positive response, and it works 100% of the time. Use imagery, the right amount of words, good tempo of voice, and you get you get what you want. You achieve your goal. Now, interest is the next step we're going to consider now. Gaining the reader's interest. We're talking about either right now, right? Gaining the reader's interest is a deeper process than grabbing their attention. Help your readers to pick out the messages that are relevant to them quickly by using bullets and subheadings, and break up the text to make the point stand out. Don't clump everything together. If you're writing something and you need people to grasp the message, first, make sure that you're doing it the right way. Secondly, you're using things that would catch their interest. And so you make sure that the catchy words are use bullets or subheadings to make that point stand out. That is the second part of the either, what either tells you you should do. Okay. All right. So the next part is desire. Desire. The interest and desire parts of either go hand in hand simultaneously to build the reader's interest. You have to also tell them how your message can help them. The main way of doing this is by appealing to their personal needs and wants. Okay, so we have established that with my princess, food delicious, instant food service, and delivery. If you notice, that advert was able to, one, captivate the person's interest. Two, it was able to tell my audience the message that can help them, especially those people who live far away from home, and then they need to leave home very early to their workplace, and then they get to the workplace, there are no restaurants around, or maybe they have a restaurant, but the restaurant sells very terrible food, and they are forced to buy it because they don't have any other option. That's the best they can get. And lastly, that advert was able to appeal to the person who is listening, their needs and their wants. So if what you are trying to sell to someone does not appeal to the person's needs, does not appeal to the person's wants, does not appeal to the person's desire, you will be wasting your time, because at the end of the day, you will just talk, and not achieve anything. Action. Be very clear and specific about what action you want your readers to take. Give them specific information about the action to take rather than leaving it to them to figure out what to do for themselves. Let me go back to my advert. I'm so in love with that advert. All right, so back to that advert. There was a call to action. I don't know if you noticed it. There was a call to action where I gave a specific information about the action I wanted them, what I want the audience to take. I don't know if you noticed. I started with, so what are you waiting for? Place your order now. I didn't say place your order tomorrow. I didn't say place it next week. I didn't say place your order whenever you feel like it. I said place your order now and enjoy quality at its best. So you have told them what you expect them to do. You've given them information as for what you want them to do. So instead of just leaving them to figure out what they would want to do at any time they would want to do it, you tell them when you want them to do it and how you want them to do it. I even went further to drop a telephone number that they could call if they have further questions or there's something else they need to know about the service and the delivery, if they want to book or something, drop a number. It's a call to action. Tell them what you want them to do and how to do it. That is call to action. If you're trying to persuade someone to do something and there is no call to action, you might just be wasting your time because you've told them what to do. And then you've told them something, and then you're allowing them to figure out how they should respond to what you've told them. That is not proper persuasion. When you're done with saying all those beautiful things, and then you have all those beautiful imagery and everything, let it end with a call to action. All right, so examples of the call to action. Examples of the call to action. One, you could say, start your journey towards XYZ today. Please, that word today is very important because you're telling them when you want them to start the journey or when you want them to do that thing. You're persuading them and you're telling them when, today. Two, activate XYZ today. So you have a product, you want them to key into it, and in order for them to do that, they need to activate something, and they have to do it now, today. I'm sure you've checked online, maybe you're trying to buy a product online, and then when you look through it, you see some parts where the product is displayed and what it can do and all of that, and the next thing you see is something like a time peaking. And then the next thing you see under is you are running out of time, telling you that time is of the essence. You need to do this now. If you don't do it now, the offer will finish. A lot of people will grab it and it will finish and then they'll tell you, sorry, it's over. They give you that impression that if you don't do this now, tomorrow will be too late. So time is running out. Take the action today, now, as you're looking at it, just take the action right now. Another part is when you're buying something, you can see add to cart. Put it inside the cart because you're buying it. When you put it in the cart, of course, you're going to pay for it now, so you have to put it in the cart. So when they tell you add to cart, it is a call to action. The action is pick that item, put it in the cart so that you can check it out and pay, right? That is call to action. Add to wish list. That is another one. When you add something to wish list, it means that it's something you intend to do something about. You want to have this, you wish to have it, it interests you. So they display a variety of products, make it glossy, colorful, and say fantastic things about it. And they give you a suggestion, add to wish list. That immediately tells you that you need to do something, right? That's call to action. Now, this is the one that we're very conversant with in Africa. I don't know if you've watched some movie adverts, especially Nigerian movie adverts, where they start to tell you a storyline about how the prince met a poor girl and then eventually got married, and maybe the title of the movie is Love at First Sight, Part 1 and 2. Love at First Sight, Part 1 and 2. Prince CK meets Ada, and then they fell in love and they live happily after, something like that. And then they tell you part 1 and part 2, and then they tell you, grab your copy now, right? Maybe I'm not saying it right, but it happens in a lot of Nigerian movies when they're trying to give you a premiere or they're trying to give you an insight into what the movie is going to be about. At the end of the whole long advert, they just tell you, grab your copy now. So that's a call to action. They give you that preview and then they entice you with it. They don't show you everything. They just show you just some bits and pieces that would make you want to watch the movie, okay? And then they tell you should grab your copy when? Now. Call to action. Very important. Very, very important. So it will be very necessary that we use these things when we're trying to persuade others to do something for us. The rhetoric of persuasion. Rhetoric means using language effectively to please or persuade someone. When speaking to an audience, the main goal of communication is to please or persuade the audience. Some people are naturally good at rhetoric, while others are not. The great Greek philosopher Aristotle proposed that there are 3 modes of rhetoric that a person can use for persuasion. These 3 modes of rhetoric are ethos, pathos, and logos. I don't know if we have come across this before. Have you come across this before? Ethos, pathos, logos. Do you understand what they mean? Well, Aristotle brought this because they are very effective, and we're going to know more about it today. Ethos. The word ethos is of a Greek origin that means the word character. Ethos in rhetoric is a show of the speaker's character or credentials. Hence, while using ethos in rhetoric for persuading a person, the speaker demonstrates his own power and authority. As per Aristotle, ethos is the most important attribute of any communication. So a speaker using ethos has to create a sense of credibility and trustworthiness for himself and in the minds of the audience. Only when the audience can trust and believe in the speaker or the writer's character, that is only when they can successfully persuade the audience. So you need to build in yourself that character. When they see you, they won't detach you from what you are preaching to them. If someone is coming to you and is telling you, oh, this is something, a business venture that when you get into it in 3 months, you're going to be rich, you're going to have money, you'll be able to take care of every of your needs and wants and everything. And then you're looking at the person's shoes and the shoes are bad. And you're looking at the person doesn't even look well fed. And then the person is trying to sell a product or an idea to you that is supposed to make you rich in 3 months. And he says he's been doing it for the past 3 years. And then you're looking at him and there's no evidence to show that he is a user of what he's trying to preach to you. The moment you notice that his character is different from what he's persuading you to do, what do you think will happen? Interest will be lost. So Aristotle is saying that it is very important that the speaker's character or credential is used as power or authority when persuading. The next is pathos. Pathos can prove to be one of the strongest appeals that you can make to your audience to take action. Using a narrative story is one of the easiest ways of conveying a message using pathos. Therefore, pathos impacts both the emotional as well as the imagination of an audience. The word pathos is of Greek origin and means the word experience. Experience. Pathos is, in rhetoric, is an appeal made by the speaker to the emotion of the audience. Such emotions stirred in the audience are intended to move and motivate the audience to do what? Take action. You should use pathos effectively to move people to act on your issue. This is why motivational speakers use it a lot. They tell beautiful stories of themselves or narrate an experience of someone who was at a point A, but after taking certain steps that they are selling to you to also take, was able to move from point A to point B and live happily ever after. That is how pathos is used. That is how pathos is used. And that is why it also means experience. You have to share an experience, either a personal experience or that of the other person, and relate it with what you're persuading that person to do or what you're persuading the audience to do. Logos. Logos. The word logos is of a Greek origin that means the word reasoning or logic. Logos in rhetoric is an appeal made by a writer or speaker to the reader or listener's logical reasoning. Logical reasoning. You can use logos to add credibility to your argument when you build your argument using basic building blocks of common sense. Common sense. Yes, you heard that right. You should bear in mind that in order to use logos in your speech effectively, you should know the audience before presenting such ideas. So you can say that logos can be used to appeal to the logical sense and reasoning of the audience, and this forms a basis for justifying your opinions or ideas. For us to better understand how ethos and logos can be used for persuasion, I'd like us to dive into a classic piece of English literature. I think we should use that of Julius Caesar. By the way, Julius Caesar is one of the greatest works of William Shakespeare, and it is one of my favorites. I don't know if anyone here has read the book Julius Caesar. Has anyone here read it? Julius Caesar, written by William Shakespeare. Please type in the chat room if you have read the book. Julius Caesar, written by William Shakespeare. Have you? Oh, Jason has not read it. Ah, okay. Well, it's a very, very interesting work of literature. Okay, Veronica, thank God. Veronica has read it. Okay, Joseph, you've read it too. I was thinking maybe I was the only person who have read it. Okay, so we're going to discuss something about it. Oh, David, thank you so much. You've read it. Yes, now I have people who understand me. So Jason, you haven't read it, but I'm sure because we have a lot of people who have read it, you haven't, you probably will have a little bit of problems trying to understand the narrative I'm about to give. So I would really, really strongly suggest that you find time to read the book, maybe online where you can get a soft copy of it, or you can get a hard copy of it. It's very interesting, super interesting. And I'm going to tell you how it relates to this class. Okay, so Julius Caesar is a play about the protagonist named Julius Caesar, who is one of the most acclaimed, honored, and loved leaders of ancient Rome. The play describes the assassination of Julius Caesar for his growing ambitions. When I watched the movie, sometimes I mean, everything I read in the book came alive to me. So if you haven't read the book, but you watched the movie, you're going to have the same impact. You feel the same. In the story, some of the high-ranking people of Rome, including Caesar's very best friend Brutus, believed that Caesar's growing ambitions were turning him into a tyrant. They were afraid that if Caesar was allowed to grow further and become king, he would become a dictator who would be all-powerful and reduce the whole of Rome and its people to slaves. So some of the people, including his best friend Brutus, conspired and plotted Caesar's murder. On the day Caesar was assassinated, he was stabbed 23 times by the conspirators in the Senate. And Brutus, who was his best friend, also took turns at stabbing him too. Now, after Caesar's assassination, the citizens of Rome gathered near his dead body, wailing, grieving, crying about the loss and all of that. All of them were very angry about what happened. And so they angrily demanded a justification for the horrible crime that was committed. Now, this is the part that relates to this class. Brutus, of all persons, stood up and gave a clear speech to the citizens of Rome using ethos and logos in rhetoric to justify Julius Caesar's assassination. I can't get over this part. Okay, I have the book here with me and I nicely highlighted Brutus' speech. I want to say it word for word so you get to understand why it is necessary that we understand how ethos and logos is used, because this guy cleverly used this in the speech I'm about to read to you. Okay, let me read it out to you. He said, Romans, countrymen, and lovers, hear me for my cause, and be silent that you may hear. Believe me for my honor, and have respect for my honor, that you may believe. Censor me in my wisdom, and awake your senses, that you may be the better judge. If there be any in this assembly, any dear friend of Caesar's, to him I say that Brutus' love for Caesar was no less than his. If then that friend demands why Brutus rose against Caesar, this is my answer. Not that I love Caesar any less, but that I love Rome more. Had you rather Caesar were living and all of us die as slaves than Caesar were dead and all of us live as free men? As Caesar loved me, I weep for him. As he was unfortunate, I rejoice at. As he was fortunate, I rejoice at it. As he was a villain, I honored him. But as he was ambitious, I slew him. There is tears for his love, joy for his fortune, honor for his value, and death for him because of his ambition. Who is here so base that would be a bad man? If any, speak, for I have offended him. Who is here so rude? Who is here so rude that would not be a Roman? If any, speak for him, for I have offended him. Who is here so vile that will not love his country? If any, speak, for him I have offended. I now pause for your reply. If you notice, Brutus cleverly used ethos to build trust in himself and then used his trust as a basis for justifying his action for killing Caesar. He also used logos to appeal to the logical sense of the audience and then used sequential reasoning as a basis for justifying the gruesome murder of his own best friend, Caesar. At your time, I recommend you take that book and read it again. Probably I didn't read it right. So you get a soft copy or a hard copy like I explained earlier, so you can get to appreciate this. All right. Now, the major principles of persuasion is the next thing we're going to consider now. The following are the major principles of persuasion: principle of consistency, principle of consensus, principle of reciprocation, principle of liking, principle of scarcity, principle of authority. All right, now let's take that one after the other so we be able to understand what this is about. I'll be rounding up shortly so I don't take so much of your time. Okay, until a person is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, and always ineffectiveness. Also, consistency is important because repetition of the same thought or physical action develops into a habit, which, repeated frequently enough, becomes an automatic reflex. Okay, when you keep doing something over and over and over and over again, it gets to the point where you don't need to remind yourself because it just happens on reflex. Automatically, you're now programmed to take that action or do that thing because you've been doing it consistently over time. The commitment and consistency rule states that once we make a decision, we will experience pressure from others and ourselves to behave consistently with that decision. As per this principle, a person can be pressured into making either good or bad decisions depending on his commitment and consistency of behavior. It's very important that we take note of this because consistency can either work for good or for bad, depending on how you do it. Principle of reciprocation. Reciprocation is important in order to persuade others because when you give, you receive. This is because trying to receive without giving is as fruitless as trying to reap without sowing. When the requester first presents the other person with an initial favor or initial concession, the requester will have enlisted a powerful ally in the campaign for compliance. People generally succumb to the reciprocity rule and comply with the requester's wish. The rule of reciprocation states that humans have an inherent desire to return favors. By doing a favor, you can persuade the person to return the favor in the form of agreeing with you or buying your product or services. So the principle of reciprocation is something that I'm sure that we all understand. Have you ever experienced this before? Have you noticed that people tend to be loyal to those who they receive something from? It's just human nature. People reciprocate love, respect, kindness, and other things like that. And this can be used as a subtle form of persuasion to get a person or an audience to do something in your interest. When you give something and the person is enjoying the fact that you're giving him something, and you ask the person to do you a favor without even thinking twice, because the person is used to receiving and receiving and receiving, the person would just do anything you ask them to do. Just like that. It's human nature. Principle of liking. An important principle of persuading people is that leadership comes through respect, and a large part of respect comes from liking someone. If you don't like someone, the person will not inspire respect in you at all. Whatever a person does, you just be looking at him like, what is he even saying? What is he doing? Because you don't like him. So whatever he does, you won't like it either. So first step is try to be liked. You don't have to go out of your way and do things that you shouldn't do because you want to be liked. No, but it's something you do subtly, gradually until you get there. A large part of respect comes from liking someone, okay? So this is important. This is because each man is led by his own liking. The principle of liking says that people will say yes more often to those they like. When they don't like you, before you even say anything, they say no because they don't like you. And when they don't like you, they don't like anything you have to say or do either. Okay, so if there was a situation of choosing who would likely follow your request between a complete stranger versus a friend, you can be very confident in knowing your friend is more likely to comply with your request than the stranger. Principle of liking, very important. People will like you because you're physically or intellectually attractive, or maybe you're in the same group or affiliation, class or association, or maybe you all share similar interests. You have certain similarities, then the bond will be there. They will like you. So you don't have to try too hard or go overboard in trying to be liked. Principle of consensus. It is said that humans are like sheep, of which a flock is more easily driven than a single one. The sixth principle of persuasion, consensus, states that people look to others and follow what they are doing. Hence, in order to persuade people, it is better to create an impression and persuade the mass of people to follow you, which leads the other people to follow you automatically. Well, that's what happens with Twitter, Instagram, even Facebook. They have that feature where, people like and then follow you. People can't just like your page and start following you when you don't have anything that appeals to them. So if they don't like you or your content or what you have to offer, they won't want to follow you. If they don't find you attractive or what you have to offer as a solution to a problem or an avenue to get information, maybe social or whatever it is, they will not like you and would not even follow you. So this explains why there is something like mob action. As an individual, it will be very hard to execute judgment on an offender. But as a group, properties can be vandalized and be destroyed, or a movement can be established because you're doing it together with people who share common interests with you. So the principle of concession works because of human nature. Humans, like they said, are like sheep, that you have to drive them as a flock. As a flock, it's easy to coordinate the sheep. But as a single sheep, it might not just be so easy. Principle of consensus. Now, principle of scarcity. The principle of scarcity states that we are more easily persuaded when the resource is limited. The primary reason scarcity is so effective for persuading people is that generally we're more motivated by loss than gain. Scarcity implies rarity, high quality, and high demand, and all influences that increase our demand for the resource. You can adapt the same scarcity principle in everyday conversation for persuading people. Tell the person there is limited time, a rare opportunity, or high demand because it is popular. The principle of scarcity is largely responsible for panic buying. Last year, I'm sure you remember, panic buying pushed a lot of people to stock food and other supplies in their pantries. I don't know if you did the same thing too, with the whole COVID-19 situation and a lot of people speculating a lot of things. A lot of people went into serious panic buying. Serious panic buying. You probably did the same thing too, right? Am I right? You remember the last time there was fuel scarcity here in Nigeria? A lot of people suffered a lot just to buy fuel. Some stayed in long queues for hours on ending before they were able to get fuel. I remember I was in one of such queues, and after 3 hours, it was almost my turn, and I was happy. In fact, there were just 2 people right in front of me when suddenly the fuel attendants just stopped selling fuel and told us that they were out of fuel. Oh my world, I almost cried. I was ready to pay any amount to buy fuel at that instant because they said they were out of fuel. And there was just nothing I could do or anyone else could do than to either go home or try another petrol station. And this happens especially when we get to hear that there's a limited time, a rare opportunity, or high demand, or something like that. And so you want to strive to get it before it's exhausted. That is the principle of scarcity. Principle of scarcity. Now, principle of authority. Authority plays a major role in persuading people. However, you should remember that you don't have to build a position in order to be a leader. No. The principle of authority states that you are more easily persuaded by those with authority. There are symbols of authority you can use to increase your authority and persuading power. The 3 typical symbols of authority are title, clothing, and perceivable wealth. If someone comes in front of you and is talking to you about something, sometimes the way people get to rate an individual talking to them for the first time is, 1, when you get to notice your carriage, how you talk, how you look, the kind of clothes you're wearing, how you smell, your fragrance, if it's a cheap perfume or is the very sophisticated, expensive perfume, and how you carry yourself. And if your wristwatch looks expensive or your jewelry look nice and expensive, generally, if you're well-groomed, people tend to listen to you more than when you dress shabbily. So these are the things that help people to either listen to you or refuse to listen to you. Title can be the occupational prefix such as doctor or professor. The second symbol of authority is clothing, which consists of all the clothing a person wears, from the shoes to the wristwatch, to your jewelries, to how you look, the kind of clothes you wear, your smell, and all of that. Lastly, Perceivable wealth can consist of the respective person's house, jewelry, business, and any other wealth the person being persuaded can see. So if I'm trying to persuade you to do something and I start telling you that I'm the manager of XYZ petroleum company, you immediately put me in that pedestal that, wow, if she's working in an oil firm, then that means that she should have a lot of money because they pay a lot of money there, right? You start looking at me from that category. But if I tell you, I'm an applicant, I've been looking for a job for the past 6 years after graduation, I haven't gotten a job, the way you look at me will drop from that height to this height. It drops because you look at me like you really would not get a lot from me, or there's really nothing to gain from me. What if you visit my house? Or maybe you come to my house and the moment you enter, you see it's a face me and face you apartment with a lot of chicken in front of the house, and maybe they're rearing goats at one side and the whole place is looking upside down. You just look at me again and look at my house. However, whatever it was I must have told you earlier about me and everything might just change because of the way my house is or the location of my house. But if I take it to where I live and you're looking at this beautiful edifice, nicely arranged landscape with flowers everywhere and some cars littered around the compound, before entering, you have this high regard for me without even knowing if that is my uncle's house or if it's a rent, if it's a friend's house, I'm squatting there or anything. You probably wouldn't even think about it. You probably start looking at me from that light of sophistication. Okay. Now these things are they're very subtle, but they could be very persuasive. And people use this a lot to their advantage. How to persuade others. It is important that you should create a good impression of yourself among others in order to be able to persuade them. The world forms its opinion of us largely from the opinion we have of ourselves. The following are a few ways through which you can create a good impression. 1, learn to communicate effectively. 2, don't try to be perfect. We're all imperfect. So trying to be perfect would give the impression that you are trying too hard and you're fake. The moment people establish that, or they start having the impression that you're fake, they would not be persuaded to do whatever it is you're trying to get them to do, because the moment they start feeling that you're fake, whatever you're persuading them to do will also appear to be fake to them. Get people talking about themselves. When you're persuading someone to do something, you have to listen to them talk about themselves, because that is one way you'll be able to know their weaknesses, their strengths, their personality, who they are, what could attract them, what could interest them. And then when you get all those bits and pieces of information, you fuse them together and then line up your persuasive skills in such a way that you will get the person. Don't be sarcastic. Sometimes we might just find ourselves being sarcastic, maybe because we're trying to be funny, or we're just feeling at home in that environment. But we should also remember that a lot of people are very sensitive. And then when they notice that you're being sarcastic, it turns them off. And we don't want that. The do's of communication for persuasion. The following are some of the ways that you can use constructive communication for persuasion. Validation of each other, sensitive listening, dual perspective, recognize others' concern, seek clarification. These are the things that you can do if you want to persuade someone to do something for you or with you. Focus on specific issues, compromises and contracts, useful meta communication, summarizing the concerns for both partners, and infrequent interruptions. Don't interrupt the person when he's talking to you about something. Make sure that you focus, be a good listener, listen. Listening is very important. It helps you know what to do and what not to do when you're talking to someone. Then again, The don'ts of communication for persuasion. This is equally very important. The following are some of the don'ts of communication and how to avoid using destructive communication for persuasion. Just the way we have the positive communication line, we could also have the destructive thoughts that at the end of the day, you would spend time talking and talking, but no action, no achievement, no goal is met, nothing. You'll be wondering, but I talked. How come I didn't, well, how come it didn't work? It is the way you did it. Now, here's the don'ts. Disconfirmation of each other. We can't both go to persuade someone to buy a product or key into our service, and then I'm talking and the other one is like, really, is that so? No, well, okay, wait, let me try and get a clarification about this matter first. And you'll be wondering, wait, is it like both of you are not agreeing? You're not on the same page? You don't really understand what you're selling to me? So how come you're now coming to sell it to me when you both are not on the same page? You have killed that energy. Please don't do that. Poor listening. When you're communicating with someone and the person feels that you're not listening properly, it kills the interest immediately. So please be a very good listener. Listen is very important. When you're listening, the person feels respected. The person feels that he is seen, he's heard, he's being listened to. It goes a long way in helping the person to, it goes a long way in helping you, not even the person, it goes a long way in helping you to persuade that person to do what you want them to do because you have gotten them by listening. Preoccupation with self. Now I'm talking to you and I'm telling you nice things about myself, and everything I'm talking about is me, I, me, I. At the end of the day, person will wonder, wait, I don't understand. Are you advertising yourself or what? You have a product. Why don't you concentrate on it? Why are you all about me, I? It's not a good way to market a product or persuade someone to do something for you. So instead of me, strike a balance, graft that person in. So the person will also see how he can benefit from what you're saying or what you're persuading them to do. Cross-complaining, always complaining about one thing or the other and not seeing anything good in what another person is doing, except the person keys into your idea. That is when everything is going to be okay. Please don't do that. It kills business. Hostile mouth reading. You tend to believe you can read someone's mind. That's not good for business. It's not even good in the family. Allow the person to say what he needs to say. Don't jump into conclusions without hearing what that person has to say. It is wrong. Don't be a mind reader. If you do that, it is a big no for communication. Frequent interruption. Now I'm talking and the person, no, the person is talking, and then I'm frequently interrupting, and I'm like, no, that was not how it happened. Okay, yes, it happened that way. Allow the person to finish. When you keep interrupting, the person would feel disrespected, and it feels like you're not really listening because you're always interrupting. It's a bad habit. And people who do that very often do not have good relationships with the people they do that with. So if you have the habit of constantly interrupting people when they're talking, that is a big no in communication. Everything is thrown in. As you're talking, everything is thrown in. Counter proposals, excessive meta communications, self-summarizing. These are no's in communication. Now, quick one. Let's quickly look at the tips for effective communication for persuasion. This is the last for my class today. Okay, now let us consider the tips for effective communication for persuasion. One of the things you need to do for effective communication in persuasion is show grace when appropriate. Let the person see that you're graceful. The way you carry yourself, the smile on your face, your body language, and all of that, you show grace. Do that when appropriate. Don't come across like you're flirting. There's a huge difference between acting with a lot of grace and flirting. You don't flirt. when you want to be an effective communicator. No, show grace instead. Grant forgiveness, so put down aside your own needs if possible. If someone has offended you, but then you know that the person is going to benefit from something you want that person to do, and you too, you also have your own benefit as well. You have to learn to let go. Grant forgiveness. Put aside your differences if possible, so that you'll be able to achieve your aim, achieve your goal. And at the end of the day, both of you will benefit from it immensely. It doesn't mean that you have to be best friends, no. But you have something, you have a target, you have a focus. And in order to realize that target and focus, you need to grant forgiveness, put aside your differences, and then do the needful. Honor yourself, your audience, and the relationship. Yes, you have to honor yourself and the audience. And when you're doing that, you have to put in mind that you are establishing a certain form of relationship, and you don't want to spoil that with bad communication. Aim for win-win discussion. When you're starting off a conversation and you know that you're going to introduce persuasion, you want that person to agree with you, you want that person to campaign for you, you want that person to key into your ideas and your thoughts and do something. You have to ensure that at the end of the day, that person will also get a certain level of benefit as well. So it's not all about you. Think about the other person. When the other person knows that at the end of the day, he also gets something to benefit from it, he will be more interested, he'll be more inclined to listen, he'll be more inclined to participate and do what you're asking that person to do. Don't be hostile. You don't need to coerce the person. Just establish that win-win basis for in the conversation and see what happens then. Because that way you've been able to captivate that person's interest. You help that person to see that he has his own benefits. At the end of the day, he's going to have something that will be accrued to him. It will help him to be more inclined to listen, to take action. Win-win situation. Use bracketing to keep the discussion focused. Okay, don't stray out and start deviating and talking about other things that are not related to the subject matter. No, you will kill the interest of the person. Don't do that. It's a big no. Be flexible. Don't be rigid. Don't be rigid. I know you have something you need to say. Your focus is to persuade the person to do something, but while you're asking that person to do it, be flexible. When the person says, what if we could do this? How about we can do that? Don't say no. If it's not my way, then it's the highway. If you do it, you kill the interest. Even if at the end of the day, it is you want that person to do what you want them to do, be flexible. Listen to what that person is saying. Then try and see if it is adjustable, what your plans are. If your plans are adjustable. If they are not, kindly, softly tell that person how it will not work if you told the person's idea or if you do it the person's way. Okay, but if at the end of the day doing it that person's way will still will still give you the same result, why not do it? You're being flexible. Both people should be psychologically present and not rushed. Don't start telling the person, oh yeah, quick, do this. No, right now. No, don't do that. Because when you start doing that, you start making the person feel like, what else is going on? Am I being scammed? Guard against making people feel like you're persuading them to do something because you want to scam them. No, don't do that. You have to be subtle in your approach. You have to be delicate, treat them nicely. Don't rush them. Remember we said earlier that persuasion is not just an art, but it is science. It is science. If you get to understand the science behind persuasion, then you'll be able to do things right. Manage time during discussion effectively. Don't start talking on ending without knowing that the person has other things he needs to do. Don't get carried away because you love the sound of your voice and you keep talking and talking. Respect the fact that they also have other things that they need to do. So when you make your point and you elaborate on it, in a very reasonable form, you let it slide. Allow that person to think about what you've said, to meditate on it, and then choose the action that she can take. Don't force them. Don't let them feel like they've been forced to do anything. So manage your time effectively. Focus on the overall communication system. So if you're communicating with a person, try and make sure that you're doing it in a system that will be productive. We have discussed all of the systems earlier. So it will be very important that you go back to what we've discussed earlier, and then you see about some of the things that you can take out of it to make you a better communicator, a better persuader, and someone who has a very high emotional intelligence. Because at the end of the day, if your emotional intelligence is low, there's just no way you can get anyone to do something without getting into trouble, especially when you're trying to persuade them. Effective persuasion requires high level of emotional intelligence because it helps you to know not just what to do, but also how you can effectively do it. So with this, we have come to the end of the class. Do we have any questions? I have been able to summarize the class, told you what we have done earlier, bit by bit. We have talked about persuasion, we have talked about the skills of persuasion, we've talked about the tips, we've talked about Aristotle and what he propounded about the use of ethos, logos, and pathos. We've talked about the IDA and why it is very important that we use the IDA technique when trying to persuade people. We've talked about all the steps in persuasion, and you've also learned about my Princess Foodalicious instant food service delivery and how to make an effective, captivating advert to ensure that at the end of the day, you get good results, right? Okay, so we've learned a lot in this class, and I am stopping here. Please, if you have any question, please let us know so that we can talk from here. Questions, please. Do we have any questions? Waiting for questions. Raise your hand. Use the raise hand feature so we get to interact, please. Okay, no questions. Azizad Mola, Dr. Odunayor, Former Jason, Joseph, Magnus, Oche Patrick, Veronica Rose, Victor. Do you have questions for me?
All right.
Okay, so there are no questions. Thank you. Oh yeah, there is a question.